Open your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 19th of July 2015. I'm just back from the National Land League meeting, the AGM in Mullingar. A very, very interesting meeting. And we even used the pain genie, believe it or not, on somebody there, which is fantastic. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll just talk about, our guest on the show tonight is Dr. Michael Salla. And we're going to be talking about things, exopolitics and extraterrestrial life, and loads of things things that are going to be happening, maybe in September. Apparently there's a lot of things happening in September. We're going to be talking about that. But before we do that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yeah, communication channels this evening are...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, 046 927 1212 is the number for the studio this evening. We've also got the website as well for your pleasure. You can check out the information there on the website. It's oymradio.com. We've also got anti-social media, that is Facebook. So just log on to Facebook if you subscribe to that sort of thing. Just type in Open Your Mind or OYM. You will find us there. What else have we got for you? We have 3 streams. We've got the chat room. So we are streaming in Ireland, in the US of A, and also across the world as well. Globally, we're everywhere. You can't get away from us. And also on the what's it called? The TuneIn Radio app. For your listening pleasure on smart devices, iPhones, and all the Android devices too. So that's you can just pop along to tuneinradio.com and just type in there OYM or Open Your Mind, and you will find us there as well. We've also got a YouTube channel, and all of our podcasts, well, most of our podcasts are up there as well for your listening pleasure. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. So just as I mentioned there, just back from the AGM from the National Land League, great turnout, loads of people. You know, at the end of the day, the general feedback is that the system is completely, it's a cesspit of corruption. It's just unreal what's going on. And people have had enough, and we're standing up and saying no more. But you know what? I think Dr. Michael Salla is going to have some good information about what's coming down the line. So we'll be bringing Dr. Michael in a few minutes. But just a few things to catch up with. As usual, best wishes to Ben Gilroy. I'm sure you probably all heard by now. Ben had a minor heart attack during the week, and a mild heart attack, and he's going to have to take it a little bit easy. Apparently, Ben said that all the judges and the barristers in the forecourts had a big party when they found out. No, Ben said that, not me, on his Facebook. So yeah,
I wouldn't say that's true.
No, definitely not.
But he has been doing too much.
He has been.
He's spreading himself very thinly.
I know, because they are scared of Ben in the forecourts. They really are. He's doing a great job down there. He's putting up a great argument, and but he has to take it easy. You know, he has to kind of, you know, we're all getting old, as they say. So take it easy, Ben, if you're tuning in there. Steve.
Yeah, big surprise there in relation to Greece. We were kind of watching about 2 weeks ago, we were watching the vote as it came in from the Greek people as in what they wanted to do. But surprise, surprise for Greece, they vote no to austerity. The people had a referendum. They all, majority, voted no. I believe it was 61% voted no. But just like the Irish government, they are ignored, and they had some talks. I believe it was last Monday, and they're back in. They're on track for another bailout. And does that sound familiar? In actual fact, we were saying there last week that because they voted yes to, you know, to get out of the EU and the whole shebang, we reckon that because they got it wrong, that the government will probably let them vote again, like they do here in Ireland. When we get something wrong, if it goes against what the government want, we get a second chance, you know, a second bite at the cherry, so to speak. So yeah, unfortunately, they didn't even give the Greeks a second chance. But they just the government just decided, now we're going to go for the bail-in. Yeah, so now to pay for the bailout, they're going to asset strip the country. Again, no surprise there, because I think that's kind of the order of the day. They're going to be going around doing that to all the countries. Again, just asset stripping. They've been doing it here for a long time. So unfortunately, you know, things didn't go. We were kind of hoping that Greece would opt out. would set a precedent. We were hoping that the domino effect would take place and other countries would follow suit, and we would get out of this hellhole, this cesspit that is the EU. But unfortunately, it's not to be. But maybe with the information that we're going to hear tonight from Dr. Michael Salla, maybe there could be light at the end of that tunnel.
Well, we have to keep an eye on Mexico and we have to keep an eye on Puerto Rico because they're in debt and they can't pay it. So that could be the domino effect. That could be the starter, So we just have to watch out for that. Now, I don't know whether people have heard about this, but I'm just reading out a statement Marky made up on his Finbar from the National League about what happened during the week. And this is the cesspit court system and the government and the courts and the corruption that's going on. Basically, he wrote on his Facebook page regarding his arrest during the week at Trim Court. Basically, Finbar stood up and defended someone, and they arrested him and locked him up for 4 hours, and he had to purge his contempt. But basically, he says here, so there was a young man supporting a homeowner in Trim Court, not a peep out of him, sitting there quietly. A number of Gardaí pounced on him in court, and the suspicion that he might be recording in court. Recording in court is not an offence and is completely legal. They dragged him to the cells under the supervision of Judge Reynolds, Albert Reynolds' daughter. Talk about keeping it in the family. Now, there was ructions in the court at the way the young man was manhandled and treated. Turns out he wasn't recording at all. Judge Reynolds ran out of the court just as the assault on the young man started. When the court convened, we were in the court where they made a witness a scene. We were in the court where they made a witness scene I could only have imagined as on a slave plantation. The young man was dragged from the cells before the court, stripped bare to the waist. The judge had decided, like a plantation owner of old, to punish the boy publicly, to teach the public gathered in the court a lesson. The slave population. It was as though having stripped him to the waist was going to flog him. The boy's face was black and blue, but he had been dragged from the court clear-faced only 1 hour beforehand. So why was he black and blue when he was brought back in? There's another question. So he refused to purge his contempt and was again dragged to the cells. I did what I thought was right and I respectfully tried to address Reynolds on what had happened, but she quickly warned me if I spoke again I would be brought down to the cells also. I've been brought up to believe in justice and that one should never remain silent in the face of injustice and brutishness. I spoke again. I was arrested and dragged to the cells also. I had a great sing-along with a 65-year-old homeless guy in the cell with me for 4 hours. I was brought before Judge Reynolds again after she preached to the public not to say a word when I am brought up. She asked me to purge my contempt, and I say I was remorseful and sorry to the court, and to say that he was remorseful and sorry to the court. I told her that to get home I'd say the words, I purge my contempt, but I would not say I was remorseful or sorry. I officially stated I purged my contempt and I walked free. Never stay silent when the person beside you is being abused. Never stay silent in the company of injustice. Next, it could be you. The young man remains in jail. His name's Paul Connington, I believe. And he's still in jail and nobody knows where he is, which is very strange. Now, is it the fact that they purge his... I mean, basically when she brought him up, she asked him to purge his contempt. He said, is a civil or criminal? And she said 1 week. And so she asked him again. And he said, is a civil or criminal? And she said, 2 weeks, take him away. I mean, this woman is obviously some arrogant psychopath who's in the judicial system. Unbelievable that people are being treated like slaves in the 18th century over here in the 21st century in Ireland. This is what's going on, and this has to stop.
But unfortunately, Alan, I mean, she's getting away with that.
Yeah.
And I heard as well that I don't fully understand law, so what I'm about to say may not make a lot of sense. Like everything else I say. No, there's a thing called habeas corpus where they go and they want the man brought up to the court. He has to be present. Again, I know Vin knows a lot more about this kind of stuff because I think he's been through it. But they did this habeas corpus thing, and as Alan said, they couldn't find the guy. He seems to be gone missing. He's lost within the system. Now, people reckon that they conveniently couldn't find him to bring him before the court, because they reckon he was black and blue from the assault that happened in the courtroom previously. So again, as Alan said, Paul Coddington is his name. So not sure exactly. Do we know where he's being held? Is he being held interim?
Nobody knows.
No.
Nobody knows.
We can't even ring up somewhere and inquire about how he is.
No.
So disgraceful.
Nobody knows. It's just disgraceful.
Yeah, but look, we're going into court. We're going onto a field, if you like, where they make the rules. Yeah. It's their field and they make the rules.
She called it. She said, "This is my court," and no, it's not her court. It's our court. We are the public.
Well,
we are the people.
I totally agree, but that's not how they see it.
I know.
You know yourself, it's them and us, and if we keep going into their courtrooms, it's not a level playing field. We don't stand a chance.
I know. We could talk about this all night. Anyway, how's your week?
Yeah, my week's been fine. Like after we done the Pain Genie study, we kind of tic-tacked with a few of the people who were on the course with us. I spoke about the Shungite. We've been kind of tic-tacking with the lady Cam in relation to getting some of that. That's going to be interesting to see how it performs when we get it in. And also another couple of people that were on it as well. Just give them a shout out there. It is Angel Rose and Ahanu, aka Kevin O'Grady. I want to say hi to them because they've communicated with us as well. They actually read Akashic Records, and we've kind of touched on the Akashic Records before. It's very interesting information. So we've touched base with them and listened to a couple of their podcasts, and maybe at some point in time we may hook up and do an L show with them. Who knows? But that was kind of good. So there was also another name that was put on our list during the week as well, which I've listened to some of the podcasts done by this lady, Sunita Patani. She's also a healer in the UK as well. Again, this information all kind of stemmed from the course of the Pain Genie. It's leading us down different avenues. But this lady, Sunita Patani, she's actually been interviewed on another chap's station, and it's quite good information that she has. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what I spend the week doing. Just listening to podcasts by the Akashic Records people. That's Angel and Ahanu, and also by Sunita. But there's a lot of great information out there. And even that the information relating to Shungite. If anyone has a few minutes to spare, type it into a search engine, Shun, S-H-U-N, Gite, G-I-T-E, and it's phenomenal stuff. And just do a little bit of research on it. It's something that probably wouldn't be amiss in any home. If you had some, maybe pop it in the four corners of your home. It's supposed to be very beneficial in protecting against EMF. And anyone who lives near cell towers, I think it's if it does what it says on the tin, it'll be definitely something to have in your arsenal. Anyway, how was your week?
Not too bad. Obviously, last week we told you that myself and Steve were on the training course with the Pain Genie and talk about kind of being thrown in the deep end. I've actually treated 8 people today with the Pain Genie, 2 couples, and all to a varying degree very successful. Now, the Pain Genie is an energy healer, and there's no guarantee it's going to take the pain away, because if you have an acute pain and a chronic pain, they're 2 different pains, and the chronic pains take longer to treat and may need multiple sessions to treat them, because Herring's law states that you heal backwards in time. But very successful. They were much happier with the treatment, happy that the actual pain had subsided, which is half the battle. And even today, excuse me, at the AGM, I got asked to treat somebody that had severe back problems, and I gave him a treatment and he felt a bit better after. So that's brilliant. So it's doing its job, and very happy with the results. The people are, so pretty good.
Just want to jump in and let people know that Vin on People's Internet Radio has just made us aware that Paul has been located. He said seemingly he has been located and will be calling someone we know tonight at 9 p.m. So I'm guessing he's going to be on Vin after we clear. So yeah, that'll be one to listen to.
Okay, no problem at all. Right, just a couple of things. Catherine, a lady who's involved with the National Land League as well. I'm just going to talk about Catherine's court case. Basically, Catherine won her court case, and it was brilliant. And so I asked her to send over the information. She just said that I asked to see the original documentation for the mortgage loan they claim to have with them. They claim she has with them. When she went in, they had the title deeds but no loan offer letter. I asked why they don't have it, and he said he didn't know. I was told to get in touch with another department, and they finally admitted in a recorded telephone conversation that they did not have it, and that's what won the case. So they didn't have the original documentation. So she won the case. So no, basically the case is now closed and finished with, and she's no mortgage.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's all I can say. Wow. So they couldn't produce the goods.
They couldn't produce the goods. So well done, Catherine, on that. I did say I'd read it out for her to let people know that this case was actually won. No mortgage. They couldn't produce the paperwork. Well done, Catherine. And that happened during the week. The other thing, very quickly, before we bring in Dr. Michael, is you probably heard about, there's an awful lot, and maybe Dr. Michael might know something about this as well. There's 5 alternative doctors dead. 5 more vanished in less than a month, which is very, very strange. And it says, coincidence no longer seems realistic as reports of yet another suspicious death of an alternative health doctor, bringing the alarming total to 5. And that doesn't include another 5 doctors who seem to have vanished into thin air. Every one of these mysterious deaths and unexplained disappearances have occurred in less than 1 month under mysterious circumstances that have left the alternative health community desperate for answers. All 10 of these doctors seem to share just 2 things in common: the focus on alternative medicine and circumstances that baffle the authorities and their families. Hopefully sooner rather than later the truth will surface. It's been said that there is no such thing as coincidence, and it's doubtful these cases will prove that untrue. So why are these alternative doctors missing in the month? 10 of them within the month. That's very strange. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Dr. Michael might be able to shed a bit of light on that as to what's gone on, because we've said it before, we had Corey Good on, we had David Wilcox on, we had a number of guests on. There's a lot of energy changes coming on the planet. There's a lot of things going on. And I feel, personally, that things are ramping up. And maybe Dr. Michael can help us to understand what's going on. Good evening, Dr. Michael. How are you?
Hi, aloha. Glad to be here.
Aloha from Hawaii. Dr. Michael, thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciated. You might be able to shed some light on what's going on. But before we do that, Steve's going to kind of give us a bit of a bio as to your background, so people know, where you're coming from, and then we'll get into that.
Okay, just want to mention first of all, Vin has said no, Paul will not be on with Vin tonight. He just asked me to clarify that. So, okay, we've clarified that. Now, guest Dr. Michael Salla. Dr. Michael E. Salla is a pioneer in the development of exopolitics, the political study of the key actors, institutions and processes associated with extraterrestrial life. His interest in exopolitics evolved out of his investigation of the sources of international conflict and its relationship to an extraterrestrial presence that is not acknowledged to the general public, elected officials, or even senior military officials. Dr. Salla is an internationally recognized scholar in international politics, conflict resolution, and U.S. foreign policy, and is an author and editor. He has a Ph.D. in government from the University of Queensland, Australia, and an M.A. in philosophy from the University of Melbourne, Australia. He has conducted research and fieldwork in the ethnic conflicts in East Timor, Kosovo, Macedonia and Sri Lanka, and organised peacemaking initiatives involving mid to high level participants from these conflicts.
Fantastic. Now, before we get into getting into any major subjects, do you want to tell us what you mean by exopolitics?
Well, exopolitics is basically all of the political implications and policies stemming from extraterrestrial life that has been covered up from the public or has been something that has been studied in secret projects and programs that various whistleblowers have come forward to talk about. So if I were to just describe exopolitics quite simply, it's a branch of political science similar to, say, comparative politics, regional politics, international politics. It's just when you're looking at one sphere of human political behavior, you give it a name that distinguishes it in terms of politics. as I said, these different branches of politics. So exopolitics is just another branch of politics, but rather than dealing with politics exclusively on our planet, it deals with politics of extraterrestrial life, extraterrestrial technologies, and what it is that policymakers, what governments, what people are doing and thinking about these things.
Okay. Just a thought came to mind. The difference between normal and paranormal. So you've got politics and exopolitics. So that's your outside the norm. Would kind of the way I would see it. Would that make sense?
Well, that's pretty close. Yes, that's pretty much it. It's the same way in which we have like exobiology or exoplanetology that are all talking about the study of biology or talking about the study of planets, but outside of our current or our normal awareness of what biology is or what is accepted.
Okay.
That you go outside of that.
Okay, so obviously when people hear the word extraterrestrial life, they kind of go, oh, here we go again. Of course, we must be the only planet with life on it because there can't be ETs. I mean, we'd see them, we'd know by this. It'd be on the media. We'd be told about all of this, surely. I mean, do you not think that?
Well, actually, it's very interesting that you raise that because up until very recently, a lot of scientists said that we actually have no data of any other planets in any other solar system apart from the Earth. And so that's why a lot of the scientists said that, well, you know, we can't talk about extraterrestrial life because we simply don't know if there are any other planets out there. But that did change. Beginning in 2008, 2009, the Kepler Space Telescope began getting a lot of data on all of these exoplanets in other solar systems. And so what has happened is that there has been a revolution in the scientific arena where astrobiologists, astronomers are now talking about all of these planets out there in other solar systems, how there are billions, hundreds of billions of these in our solar system alone, and therefore there must be life out there. Whereas like 10 years earlier, scientists were saying there's no evidence that there is life out there. Now they're saying, well, there's evidence of other planets out there, so there must be life out there. So things have shifted.
So, okay, and do you feel, now I've noticed over the last probably 10 years, 20 years, well, this has been going on for a long time, but there's definitely an escalation in information coming out about science and space and what they're finding. And, you know, TV programs with aliens in them, good and bad and all that. Do you think they're kind of desensitizing us for something?
Oh, definitely. The mass media has been putting out an incredible amount of information in fictional terms about what many whistleblowers and contactees are describing as actually happening out there. And so, you know, you actually have to ask yourself the question, is the mass media actually playing a role in desensitizing us or acclimating us or preparing us for the truth of what these whistleblowers, what these contactees have been saying? There are also leaked documents that have been also talking about extraterrestrial related projects that have been in existence since the 1940s. So if the whistleblowers and the witnesses are accurate, that means that there's a lot of information out there about extraterrestrial life, and so the mass media is actually helping prepare people for that.
Right, and I mean, we've heard things banded around like Project Bluebeam for one of many, and you know, people feel that this is part of the desensitizing from the elites to get us ready for something, which could be probably a negative, because if the elites involved in it, if the oligarchs are controlling it and manipulating using a holographic technology, then they must be up to no good. I mean, do you think that could be the case, that they are actually preparing us for something that's going to have a massive impact globally to get the New World Order that they want, or would it be something else?
Oh, well, definitely. They have a lot of plans. Every military organization on the planet typically organizes white papers or policy papers that they might release to the general public or not on any contingency that they have to face. and the possibility of extraterrestrials showing up or disclosure of extraterrestrial life happening, all of these things are going to be part of a plan, or they're going to be policy papers or plans in place to deal with these possibilities, so that way they can get ahead of the curve. They can get ahead of whatever it is that the public is now accepting as the new level of truth, and that the military or national security agencies in any country will always try to plan ahead and take whatever steps they need to in order to stay ahead of the public. And I think Project Blue Beam is just one of those plans.
Okay, and what about the likes of the US against Russia? I mean, you know, the US look at Russia and have implemented sanctions, and they say Putin's a bad guy, and so, you know, Putin might come across to us as a good guy because we hear information that he's actually standing up to the New World Order. Now, would it not be that, you know, this is a game of chess and they control both sides, and they're using both sides against each other just to kind of, you know, let people see what's going on and pretend that there's this kind of fight, like the Cold War in the 60s, basically, with Russia. But, you know, in the background, they were working together, maybe on a scientific space point of view.
Yes, exactly, yes. What we need to look at here is that geopolitics is really just the surface level of a deeper political process, which I've described as exopolitics. People give it different names. Other people call it deep politics, but I call it exopolitics because I think when we look at the deepest levels of government secrecy, that those typically involve projects involving extraterrestrial life. And so what you have is, I believe, a lot of space programs that are being done in cooperation between Russia and the United States and other countries like China, that these will be cooperating at that exopolitical level in dealing with whatever problems that they face. But at the kind of surface level, at the geopolitical level, they might look as though these countries are in a Cold War, or like now with Russia and the United States in a new Cold War. But this is kind of really just political theatre, really, because the people that are in the loop, they know that the biggest problems are not whether or not, you know, the Ukrainian rebels are really being funded and supported by Russia, or whether the Ukrainian government is really a fascist government. That the biggest problem is how do the secret space programs deal with these different extraterrestrial groups that are coming into our region of the galaxy all the time? You know, what does it do, and are they a threat? Are they a friend? How do they respond to galactic energy waves and so forth?
Well, we know, obviously we've heard through reports and whistleblowers that they have this high tech, and Ben Rich, who was the CEO of the Skunk Works in the 90s, said that they have the technology to send ET home. Now, we know that Nikola Tesla, you know, had free energy in 1902, and we had that technology. The Wallcliffe Tower, I believe that's the name, but unfortunately JP Morgan, because he couldn't meter it, he didn't want to pay anymore, and we'd all be kind of, if that went ahead, we'd be using free energy. And that's only a kind of point of reference. People don't get caught up in the name free energy, because people go mad when you go, there's no such thing as free energy, it has to come somewhere. It's only a point of reference. And we would be all going around with free energy devices and levitating cars, but obviously because the powers to be want to keep all that tech. So how advanced do you think, based on the information that you have, are the elites ahead of the technology we have now?
Oh, they are like decades ahead of us. I think that when we look at some of the earliest secret space programs, that these can be dated back to the 1920s and the 1930s. And many people aren't aware of this, but that the first flying saucer crash that was documented actually happened in fascist Italy under Mussolini in 1933. They recovered a flying saucer, and the Italian authorities set up a top secret group of leading scientists that was headed by Marconi to study the flying saucers to basically understand what these are and whether the Italian government could build some of these. And the Italians began cooperating with the Germans, Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler, he had his people working with a secretive organization called the Vril Society that actually had come up with some blueprints for developing a secret space craft, and that the Vril Society, with the cooperation of the Nazis and fascist Italy, was successful in building the first flying saucers in the late 1930s. And so these were things that were basically covered up during the war, and especially after the war, when the different Allied powers basically tried to get as much of they could of these secret technologies that the Nazis and the fascists had been developing.
That's true, and obviously Project Paperclip, where they all, a handful of scientists went over von Braun over to America. So some scientists went off to Russia and some scientists went off to America. And I think we had the secret base was Peenemünde, and then they developed the Nazi Bell as well.
Exactly, yes. Peenemünde was also the place where they tested the very first Vril spacecraft. And one of the interesting things here is that many people are aware of Area 51, or that there's a location in there called S4. S4 is the top secret facility in Area 51 that actually studies retrieved flying saucer craft. And we actually have a couple of witnesses referring to the craft that were being studied at S4. And in 1958, they had 7 flying saucer craft in S4 that were being studied for reverse engineering efforts, and 4 of those craft were dated from Nazi Germany. 2 of them were the Vril Society prototypes that were developed in the 1920s or early 1930s, and the other 2 flying saucers were the bigger Hannibal II craft that the Nazis had operationalized towards the end of the war. And so those are 4 Nazi Vril Society flying saucers that they were studying at Area 51 in the 1950s.
Excellent. And obviously, if we fast forward a little bit, recently, and I don't know how true this is, I did see the article, and apparently NASA, never a straight answer as they call NASA, came out and said that they would have difficulty getting through the Van Allen belt, because the belt is about 500 miles above the Earth, and all the satellites are all kind of low orbit underneath that belt. Now, obviously, if NASA have come out and said they're having problems getting through the Van Allen belt, then how does that work in 1969 when they said they sent a man to the moon?
Well, I don't think NASA has ever said that you can't move spacecraft through the Van Allen belts. What they've said is that the Van Allen belts have a higher degree of radiation than other areas of the Earth's upper atmosphere, and so you need to have special shielding. And they typically use aluminium shielding to protect satellites and spacecraft going through there. Now, for satellites, the Van Allen belts pose a special problem because the satellites are orbiting in a particular distance above the Earth where they're in a constant orbit, and so they can be exposed to the Van Allen belts for a prolonged period of time. But that's not the problem with spacecraft like the Apollo missions that basically just shoot through the Van Allen belts on their way to the moon. That it's very brief exposure time, and the Apollo spacecraft did have aluminium shielding in there. So even though the astronauts were exposed to some radiation, it was certainly nothing that would endanger them. Okay,
and do you believe that all the stuff that we've heard, there's a book out there, the day after Roswell, I believe, and it was written by Lieutenant Colonel Corso. I remember reading the book, and he basically was talking about the tech he used. He worked in the Pentagon in the Foreign Office, and all this advanced tech he had, and they said to him that well, if you can reverse engineer it, then he didn't know, they said, do what you want with it. So he gave it to the military contractors, and he said to them, look, if you can reverse engineer it, you can call it your own. And we had this leap in technology from the 50s to the 60s, and we had laser beams, microchips, and night vision, and multiple other technologies. And obviously, he only went up, in the book, he only went up to the 70s. So, as you said, we're decades ahead. What kind of tech do you think would they have that they won't give us?
Well, a lot of the technology that is being developed in the secret space programs involves alternative energy sources that can be used to power spacecraft. They don't release this because essentially the oil industry would collapse overnight, and a lot of the oil industry profits go into funding these secret space programs. And so that's one of the reasons why they haven't released that. So they've developed things like electrogravitic propulsion systems. They've developed magnetic field disruptor technologies, which basically reduce the weight of an aircraft by a factor of 90%. So that would mean that you could travel at hypersonic speeds, that is 5 times the speed of sound, and your weight would be reduced significantly. So that way, the forces of inertia would not be a problem for you if you had to kind of turn around quickly, traveling at those speeds. They have also developed things like quantum computing, which is just far more powerful than the kind of computing systems that we have, the traditional computing, which is based on transistor chips or other devices that basically can only have one state or two states, which is like the open or closed. Whereas quantum computing, you can actually have multiplications of that, quantum levels above that, in terms of something being open and closed at the same time. You also have advanced genetics, cloning, where they can clone entire human beings very accurately. They have alternative health technologies, health systems, where they can actually grow organs very easily. So that way, you would, if you lost a leg or something in a battle, that you could go into some machine, medical technology that they have, and you can regrow that organ using some kind of light electromagnetic technology that they have. So they have a lot of really amazing technologies that they just don't release to the general public.
And you've got the amount of the benefits that we would get from that technology if we had it in the general public. And we've also heard they have replicator technology as well.
Well, that's right. The amount of good that would be achieved by the release of this technology is incredible. But I think that they didn't release it because I think for many years the people, the national security elites running these programs, they genuinely believed that the Earth was going to experience a catastrophe, a planetary-wide catastrophe. And of course, you had many mystics and prophets predicting this as well. You know, Edgar Cayce, Mother Shipton, Gordon Michael Scullion, Nostradamus, a whole line of people that were predicting that sometime towards the end of the 20th century, there would be great planetary catastrophes. And I think the elites took these seriously and basically thought, well, you know, maybe there's a 75% chance that there'll be a planetary catastrophe. So we got to prepare. So, you know, that was the whole kind of alternative 3 scenario. I know in Britain you had that go forward where they prepared for some kind of planetary catastrophe, and they had 3 alternatives. Deep underground military bases, escaping to the moon, or going to Mars, and so forth. And I think that what happened was that those catastrophes just didn't happen. You know, why they didn't happen, that's a good question. But essentially that it didn't happen, and so now the elites kind of have egg on their face because they withheld all of this technology that could have helped so many people, because they thought that, well, what's the use of distributing it to the masses if they're going to die anyway? Well, now it's like, well, we're not going to die. The catastrophes haven't happened. So where are these technologies? And I think that's what we are going to be experiencing in the next several years, is the release of these advanced technologies.
Well, funny you should say that, because I have a statement here which I have down, and this is from an ex-Navy SEAL, and this is what he says here. He says, world governments have known about this big event for a very long time, and they have calculated what they believe to be the correct preparation time for this event. Before the event, the world powers militaries, monitoring systems, evaluation programs, joint logistic networks, and currency exchange systems must all be connected up to a certain level before the planetary system enters Earth's atmosphere. We're talking about Planet X now. This is the reason for the historical military exercises around the globe, emergence of the AIIB Bank, BRICS, CHIPS, massive seed banks, stateside underground storage facilities, an unprecedented amount of FEMA installations. The powers to be are scared to death. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I think that that kind of like gives us an idea of how the national security elites think. That they look at future events. You have to plan ahead. What's going to happen in 10 to 20 years' time, and so they saw planetary catastrophes. And Planet X has been cited by many different researchers as returning, and that this would be responsible for the catastrophes. And Planet X, the first predictions were for 2003, that it would be returning in 2003. And then you had the end of 2012, and now there are predictions for 2017. So I think that there's always going to be kind of people trying to look at the scientific data, look at what is happening in our solar system. But at the end of the day, these all have to be considered as kind of predictions or models that can change very quickly.
Okay, and so what do you think Planet X is? I mean, apparently Zachariah Sitchin talked about Planet X, Nibiru, and astronomers have disappeared, been killed. They've also gone down to Australia to apparently see it there. They call it wormwood. It was mentioned wormwood in the actual Bible. Now, we know there's a lot of energy changes coming on the planet. We've heard about that. So what do you say to people who actually, I can see, physically see, are taking photos? Like, the reason why I'll just say one lady in particular, Nancy Leader, if you go over to her website, she has loads of Planet X photos, and we have Dr. Joseph Cipollone going to be on the show in a few weeks' time. He sent us over a few photos of Planet X, or a planetary body beside the sun, from his back garden. And so people are actually physically seeing something in the sky. And what's your take on that? What are they seeing?
Well, people look at the data that has been collected by various telescopes or NASA devices out there, and they look at that and they interpret it in a particular way. Now, I know Planet X has been something that has been kind of a subject of a lot of speculation for a lot of years. But the thing is, when you look at the data, when you look at the photos, what does that show? Does it show a planet, or does it show, say, some sort of energy manifestation? And I think there's recently I just have become very interested in the work of a Dr. Simon Atkins, and he says that rather than it being a planet, it is actually a wave. He describes it as, not as Planet X, but he describes it as Wave X. And so this is something that I think is very significant, that whatever it is that various sources are saying is a Planet X out there that is coming in, it may in fact be something else, like a part of a galactic superwave. There's a theorist, Dr. Paul Laviolette, who has written an excellent book called Galactic Superwaves, and he says that this time of our history is one where it's very likely that there will be a galactic superwave passing through our region of the galaxy. And so that, in fact, may be what it is Planet X is really all about. That I think, in order to put the information out there, but in a way that ultimately discredits itself, then there may be intelligence organisations that refer to this incoming energy wave not as an energy wave, but as a planet, so that way, people can get their heads up, but yet there's not enough data to support that hypothesis of a planet.
Okay, so what are people seeing, do you think, in the sun? What are people taking photographs of if they see the planetary body beside the sun?
Well, if they see something beside the sun, it would not be something like a superplanet. Like people have been saying, Planet X is the size of a dwarf sun, like something several times the size of Jupiter. Now, if something that big was next to the sun, we would have felt it. There would be tremendous disruption in the inner solar system in terms of the orbits of the different planets, Mercury, Venus, in particular. If there was a huge body planet next to the sun, a planet X kind of sitting there somewhere, as Mercury orbited around the sun, astronomers would see huge deviations in the orbit of Mercury, similarly for Venus. And we would also feel something here, even though we're 93 million miles away from the sun. So if they are seeing something from the sun, next to the sun, I don't think it's a planet. It may, in fact, be some kind of energy device. And there have been people that have been talking about large Neptune-sized spheres that have come into our solar system recently. Especially the last few years, these huge spheres have come in, and some of them have come in from outside of the solar system. Others have come in through the sun. So they may be seeing some of these kind of energy spheres, but they're not like planets. Even though satellite or like the SOHO images of these spheres might show what looks like a sphere or a planet out there near the sun, it's actually an energy device rather than an actual planet.
Right, okay, well that's quite interesting. Well, we have a few questions for you, Dr. Michael, so I'll pass you out to Steve.
Yeah, the first question, which I think is kind of interesting, is from John, and John is wondering, Dr. Michael, is there any other evidence apart from what we see from NASA and their CGI that other planets actually exist?
Other evidence than what NASA is providing? Well, there are a lot of satellites that have been put up there by NASA and the European Space Agency, which have been getting data about exoplanets. So that is data that the scientific community has embraced. There's been no question that this data is accurate and that there are billions of exoplanets out there. But there have also been whistleblowers that have come forward to talk about deep space missions, and that there have been planets in other solar systems that have been colonized by one or more secret space programs. But those are whistleblowers. Those are people that they can't prove what they're saying. There's no documentation to prove that. But there's a lot of solid scientific documentation to show that exoplanets exist, and there are many billions of them out there.
And do you think that in our lifetime, I know we're kind of we're all waiting for disclosure and all this, but do you think in our lifetime that someone will actually stand up to be counted and say to the public en masse, yes, there is other intelligent life form, there are other planets in the solar system, there is life out there, we're not alone? Because up to this point in time, you may hear somebody may say it over there, and somebody may say it over here, and we were expecting Dr. Stephen Greer, I think it was last year, possibly the year before, we were waiting for him. There was a rumour that he was going to come on stage and he was going to do the whole disclosure thing and educate the people, and it never happened. But do you reckon in our lifetime that will happen, that something like that will actually happen?
Oh, definitely, yes. I think it's first important to point out that there's two ways that this can be done. There's the discovery approach, and there's the disclosure approach. The discovery approach is basically someone like the President of the United States or the UN Secretary General one day goes forward and says, there have been scientific instruments that have detected extraterrestrial life in another solar system or on another planet in our solar system. So we now know we are not alone. Something along those lines. It would be kind of like a discovery announcement. It would be something that for many people would open the door to a new era in human civilization, that we know extraterrestrial life exists out there, and so therefore now we have to put more resources into kind of like developing space programs so we can go out there and find them. Okay, so that's the discovery scenario.
Yeah.
Then there's the disclosure scenario, which is that, something along the lines, while we've been visited by extraterrestrials for the last century and even longer than that, we have been made aware that they have been interacting with our populations and that they are here now, and we have been covering this up from the world public. Oops.
Yeah, personally speaking, I reckon they'd go for if they were given the choice there, multiple choice. I reckon the governments of the world will probably go for choice number one, because if they go for choice number one, if they go for choice number two, then the public are going to look and go, well, okay, you've been lying about that. What else have you been lying about? And the whole ball of wax would start to unravel. But I reckon if they went for choice number one, then the people would kind of say, the government would say, yeah, we have found life out there. We actually don't know if it's friendly or hostile, so we need to increase taxes, and we need to, get a Star Wars program back in operation here. We need to have a big budget for defense, because we don't know if they're going to attack us. The fact that we've discovered them now, they probably know we exist, and we need to get some rockets and missiles and tasers and God knows whatever Star Wars material up there to protect ourselves. So I reckon that, given the choice, personally speaking, just based on what I've seen in my lifetime, that's probably the way they go.
Exactly. I think that the discovery route is one that they can control, that they can manipulate that, how they choose. And I think that's something that they definitely have been planning for. I think there have been a number of astrobiology conferences that have been held over the last few years, and one of the organisations that has been very prominent in that is the Catholic Church. Vatican astronomers have been very prominent in attending these astrobiology conferences and giving presentations about why they think the discovery of extraterrestrial life would be compatible with Catholic theology, and why it is that Catholics can actually embrace extraterrestrials as our brothers, and that they could actually be baptized into the church. So these are things that I think are a good sign that the Vatican is actually a big part of the preparations for some kind of future discovery announcement. But the wild card here is, as you were saying, Alan, the disclosure scenario. That is something that can unfold at any time. That's not something that can be controlled. And I think that what we are probably going to be seeing in the next, starting over the next few months and possibly spanning over the next 2-3 years, we may actually see some pretty major disclosure announcements, a breakdown in the secrecy system.
Well, I won't hold my breath, but it'd be good to see something, because they kind of have to make a choice. They'll carry on doing the deniability, and then you might have somebody like China or another country, China, Russia, or another country coming out and doing the disclosure, and then that will have egg on their face regarding America. Or because what we've heard, I don't know how true this is that if one of the countries don't come out and make the disclosure, then the ETs will actually go and do it themselves. Now, I don't know, does that make sense? Have you heard that?
I have heard many different ways in which this can be done. I think that at the international level, it's kind of like the Three Musketeers approach, all for one, one for all type thing, where, no one country's going to break ranks and kind of say, hey, this is what's been really happening. Extraterrestrials have been visiting us, and we've been keeping it secret. That I think that if anything were to come at the international arena, it would be highly coordinated between the different national actors. But I think the real wild card here is that there can be disclosure through the release of documents. That what we have now with WikiLeaks, with the Snowden NSA files, that for the first time in our history, many thousands or even millions of government documents can be dumped into the public arena, and governments can't stop it. And that is really the big wild card here, because if you have these government documents being released, basically detailing these secret space programs and extraterrestrial visitors and technologies that have been studied and developed secretly, if these documents are dumped into the public arena, onto the internet, then I think basically you're going to have that will be disclosure, but it would be something that the elites would try to prevent, but in the event that they can't stop it, then they would have to basically come up with some strategy to kind of like save face.
Yeah, I think they'll have to come up with some kind of strategy, and I think the disclosure, the whole desensitizing people, is probably going to be part of it over the period of time, because this is, what we've heard for years about this subject matter is that they want people, what happened with the War of the Worlds in the 1930s, when they did the radio play, and everybody was panicking because they thought it was true. So they thought, well, hang on a minute, we can't say anything because that was apparently some psychological experiment anyway, to see if people were ready, and they weren't. So over the years, they've brought out all these movies and all these, Hollywood and books and everything else. So when they turn around and they disclose it and they say something like, by the way, we found life in another planet, people go, oh, sure, we already knew that, and then life will carry on. So they need something like an 85% conscious level to understand that, that they know that there's life outside planet Earth before they disclose something.
Exactly, yes. You need to psychologically prepare people for this, so that way if they do announce themselves, or whether there's some kind of breakdown in the secrecy system, such as massive document leaks and so forth, that it's not going to be a shock, because they know that the people who run these projects are very good at psychological warfare. They understand human psychology far better than many people would kind of admit. They know that if they haven't done the necessary preparation for people psychologically, that if this information were to be released, you could have a kind of breakdown. There could be a breakdown in civil society because people would be in such shock. And I mean, for example, many devoutly religious people, they would be in profound shock if all of a sudden they start watching the news, and the news is saying, well, these extraterrestrials are here, and they're saying they created us. It's like, well, hang on, well, God created us. What are these extraterrestrials saying? And, for many people, that would be a profound shock. But if you actually do things like put out a whole lot of movies that discuss things, like the most recent one is like Jupiter Ascending, the kind of like that whole scenario of humans being kind of genetically seeded on the planet, and we're the property of extraterrestrial races. That kind of like helps psychologically prepare people for the truth that, we may not be as special as we think.
Yeah, well, it's gas when you actually throw the spanner in the works and say to people, what if we are not at the top of the food chain? And when you say that to some people, they kind of look at you and go, what? What do you mean? And if you watch the movie Jupiter Ascending, it kind of explains things, really, what I mean by that statement. But we have more questions there, so we'll pop over to Stephen. Steve, you've got a few more there.
Yeah, well, I've loads of questions. I'm just going to I've got so many. I'm just going to have to ask them in no particular order at all. I haven't really had a chance to kind of categorise them. But Dr. Michael Salla, Chris is wondering, can you ask Dr. Salla, does he believe President Eisenhower met extraterrestrials, and if so, did he tell JFK prior to him taking office?
Oh, that's a great question. I know that there have been a lot of whistleblowers that have come forward to talk about Eisenhower having several meetings with extraterrestrials. The first meeting happened in February of 1954, and that was at Edwards Air Force Base, where he met with a group of extraterrestrials from a kind of more human-looking, friendly alliance of extraterrestrials that were here to offer kind of assistance as humanity adjusted to the existence of extraterrestrials and the development of more advanced technologies. And this assistance would involve education, kind of consciousness raising, spirituality, and so forth. But Eisenhower's advisors said no to that. And in 1955, Eisenhower had a meeting at Holloman Air Force Base. This was in February, March of 55. And at that meeting, agreements were reached with another group of extraterrestrials that were willing to trade technologies for cooperation with the United States in terms of bases, being able to have access to individuals for genetic experiments. And so this is something that Eisenhower over the years became very unhappy with, because he felt that he lost control over these projects and over the way that these agreements were being implemented, that the committee that had set up the infrastructure or the projects to develop advanced technologies was called Majestic 12, and Eisenhower became very unhappy with the way Majestic 12 was running things behind the scenes, and so he eventually left office with that warning, that famous warning about beware the dangers of the military-industrial complex. But what he really wanted to say was that this Majestic 12 group that was working with the military and corporations and extraterrestrial groups in developing these advanced technologies, that they were basically a rogue operation, and that the President of the United States no longer had control. And he told President Kennedy about this, and Kennedy, in the kind of less than 3 years that he was president, he tried to regain control over these projects from the Majestic 12 group, and that's what led to his assassination.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that when you talk about, let's say ETs came in here back then in the 50s, and if they were willing to trade technologies and information and for whatever they wanted, then it wouldn't be too hard to believe that we actually did, well, not we, but mankind actually did pass through the Van Allen radiation belt. Because maybe if ETs were able to come in through the belt, then maybe they would have given the information as to what materials could be used in order to get past it. So I mean that wouldn't be too hard to believe. But just in relation to, let's just say for argument's sake, extraterrestrials were here, they done whatever they had to do, and let's say more of them are coming in, because this is something we've heard of as well, and it'd be interesting to get your take on this. But we heard that in relation to chemtrails, there's kind of there's more than two, but I'm going to concentrate on two schools of thought. Number one is that it's part of a depopulation program to rid the earth of humankind, or most of it anyway. And the second school of thought is that because if ETs are going to come in here and take over the planet, some people say that they can't survive in our atmosphere. So they reckon that what's being sprayed in the atmosphere is and probably along with HARP as well, to change the atmosphere. So when these beings do come into our atmosphere, it will be changed in such a way that can support their life. Just wondering what you think of that.
Yes, the chemtrails. That's a very interesting phenomenon. It happens a lot in different parts of the United States. I think part of the rationale behind that is probably it is part of an experiment to test how the public can be affected by whatever it is they're spraying into the atmosphere, whether it's because it's directed towards population reduction, or whether it's mind control, trying to influence the public in a certain way. They are very good at using all sorts of electromagnetic technologies to test how this influences public reactions in any particular scenario. And I think another part of the chemtrails is that as you have a lot of these kind of metals and particles that are spread all in the upper atmosphere, that a lot of the electromagnetic detection technologies that they have in place, and even technologies that can be used as a weapon against visiting extraterrestrials, can be used. Because I think one of the big differences with extraterrestrials and kind of our human technologies is that extraterrestrials get from point A to point B not so much like we do. Like, we would use a rocket or jet engines to travel from point A to point B in the shortest possible line, whereas extraterrestrials, they would get from point A to point B kind of like through folding space-time. And so it would be almost like they just appear at point B. It's not as though you have a line from point A to point B. It's just like, here they are at point A one moment, next moment they're at point B. So, with that, how do you develop a defense strategy against that kind of technology? You have to monitor where extraterrestrials are showing up, and I think that's why chemtrails are part of the way in which they can actually better monitor what's happening in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because we also heard as well information kind of similar to that, but then again we also heard other information saying that one of the components that is involved in that makes up these chemtrails, one of the components is something to do with holographic technology. And then other people are saying, yeah, because if they are going to fake an alien invasion or fake craft up in the sky, then if they have enough of that material up there, then it'll be a walk in the park for them to recreate something holographically.
Well, that's right. Yes, there's all sorts of applications that they could have in mind for whatever it is they're putting up in the atmosphere. It could be very well, as you said, like something that would enable holographic projections to take on substantive form, and then that could be a way that they can manipulate the public, whether it's a fake alien invasion, or to kind of fake like a rapture scenario, or fake kind of a second coming. There are all sorts of holographic applications that could be used.
Yeah, some people actually believe, I'm not saying I subscribe to this theory, but some people have actually come out and said that they reckon that that's exactly what it's for. And when you go back as far as 9/11, when that happened, they're saying that, again, some people say that no plane actually hit the Twin Towers on 9/11, that they reckon that was all holographic as well. Allegedly, there are some experts out there who examined footage, and they said, yeah, it definitely was, it wasn't real. But then again, like I'm saying, I know we're not going down that road, so there's probably no point in even mentioning that. But it's worth kind of considering that everything that we see in the sky, well, maybe it may not be real, I suppose, but we just don't know. But look, I'm going to continue on with the questions, because we've got a hell of a lot of them to get through, and we're kind of tight in time. But Chris is wondering, can Dr. Salla tell the listeners the connection between John F. Kennedy and James Forrestal?
Oh, that's a really interesting one. James Forrestal, he was the Secretary of the U.S. Navy from 1944 up until 1947. And the U.S. Navy was the organization that basically set up Operation Paperclip, which was to take Nazi scientists and technologies back to the US so that they could start building their fleets of flying saucers, because the Navy discovered that the Nazis were successful in setting up operational flying saucers. and that when the Navy basically was trying to collect all of the scientific data and technologies and the experts that had built these, Forrestal wanted to basically bring all these back to the United States so that the Navy could then set up its own secret space program, kind of modelled on what the Nazis had done, and develop their own big space carriers so that they could deploy them in space, because this was something that the Nazis had actually attempted. They had actually built some prototypes for an Andromeda-class ship that would actually be like a space carrier. So this is what the Nazis were doing, and the Navy were trying to get all that information. James Forrestal was the Secretary of the Navy, and he kind of like was on top of all of that. What most people don't know is that James Forrestal took John F. Kennedy to Germany in the summer of 1945, and basically while Forrestal was touring all of the top secret Nazi facilities where they had been developing this stuff, he was showing Kennedy all of this information and all of these technologies, and we know that because Kennedy actually wrote about it. He wrote about it in his diaries, and his diaries were published as it's called Prelude to Leadership, and this is the diary that John F. Kennedy recorded of his trip to Germany in the summer of 1945 when he was a guest of James Forrestal, and basically describing how Forrestal took him along to these top secret policy meetings and got to tour all the Nazi facilities to see their advanced technologies that were of interest to the Navy. And I think what that shows is that John F. Kennedy from 1945 was very aware of the Nazi space program and the project Operation Paperclip and the U.S. secret space program that basically grew out of that. And so when he became president in 1961, he basically tried to get control over that.
Yeah, actually now that speech that he made where he was saying, and if we want to, about secret societies being repugnant, and if we want to go to the moon, we'll go to the moon, suddenly, from based on what you've just told us there, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Because, again, when I listened to that speech before, it just sounded like a speech that, off the top of his head, if we want to go to the moon, we'll go to the moon. But now it looks like he was had been privy to what was going on with the Soviets, and it actually makes a lot more sense. But what else we got? We have Graham was wondering, can you ask Dr. Michael if he is aware of the work of Hank Wesselman, the Spirit Walker trilogy? He states he has went forward in time and seen the continent of America being rediscovered by a new human race.
I don't know too much about Hank Wesselman. I know he has done a lot of kind of shamanic work, which is kind of like, I guess, some psychic exploration of different worlds, different possibilities, and maybe he's looking at something about what happens as our planet transitions into a new future, but really I'm pretty sketchy on what he's been saying, so I should maybe skip that question.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. I mean, if you don't know you're not too familiar with the information, then that's absolutely fine. Where are we now? Karen, listening to us in California, was wondering, is there technology that you're aware of that can address the damage being done to the oceans at the moment by the Fukushima radiation?
That's very interesting. I know that there are a lot of extraterrestrials that can intervene but aren't, because there is really a question of, well, humanity created this problem. Humanity needs to resolve it, so it's not just a matter of extraterrestrials coming in and cleaning up the problem. But we do have the technology. I know that there is bacteria that actually can eat or absorb radioactive material and process that, and basically its excrement is actually cleansed. So this bacteria can actually absorb radioactive material, and then just the byproduct is something that is not going to be harmful to the oceans. And that kind of bacteria does exist. It is known, but it has not been used, because I think part of the problem was that the Fukushima incident was a false flag event. It was organized by the cabal, the Illuminati, to pressure the Japanese government into basically handing over more and more money to the cabal so that they could kind of go forward with their plans. And in order to pressure the Japanese, they're not releasing these technologies that could basically clean up the oceans, because they know that the Japanese are suffering tremendously because of Fukushima. They are the nation that they're very reliant on their oceans in terms of food and so forth. And so until the cabal is ready to release this technology, then I don't think you're going to have the radiation cleaned up. But this is where we kind of touch on that issue of, well, are the cabal's days numbered? And I think that they are numbered, because I think there are disclosures that are going to be happening very, very soon, and that there's things happening at a bigger level in terms of extraterrestrial groups, space programs that are really putting pressure on the cabal to tell the truth and release a lot of the hidden technologies.
Do you reckon, though, I mean, that this will actually happen? This, the cabal will be seen for what they are. Technology will be released. Do you reckon, again, this will happen in our lifetime, or will it be something that our children may see, or even our grandchildren?
I'm very optimistic that it's going to happen pretty soon, just because of the nature of the internet. Because what makes our age very different to our parents' generation is that we have an internet now, that this is the information age, and that huge amounts of information can be kind of released very, very quickly. And we're already seeing that with the Snowden files, with the WikiLeaks releases, huge amounts of information that just kind of like can overnight change our planet or change things tremendously, because all of a sudden a lot of these secret documents are now being kind of read, digested by the mass public. So I think we are on the verge of document releases that are going to be discussing extraterrestrial life and secret space programs, and that once those documents see the light of day, then that's the end for the cabal, because people are going to call for heads to roll. There's no way you're not going to have a lot of very angry people saying that that those policymakers that were responsible for the secrecy and for having done all of these things over the decades, that they need to be punished for this, and at the very least have to be exposed and basically retired from public life.
Oh boy, do they have to be punished?
Talk about, I mean, even Hillary Clinton, we only spoke about her yesterday. At the moment, I believe she's trying to shut the internet down because she doesn't like where it's going.
Yeah, well, we talk about the internet too, the version where it's subscription only, where they will, like Sky, you'll actually subscribe, and they will give you the websites that you can only have access to, and then if you want to set up a website, you have to go to your local council and ask for permission to do it. This is things that they're banning about and they've talked about. But what I want to do is I want to look at kind of on the positive side. Now, you did put up an article there, I seen it earlier on today, Dr. Michael, regarding September. Now, we've talked about September already on the show, and there's loads and loads of dates banded around. September is one of them. And but one of the article that you put up there on the website, one of the things you said in it was that there's going to be changes in September. Can you tell us what that was all about and where that source of information came from?
Right. Well, that came from Dr. Simon Atkins, who is the CEO of an organisation called Advanced Forecasting Corporation. And so this is an organisation that in the past has had some very interesting successes with their predictions, and so they have come forward now and forecast that September is when these cosmic rays, cosmic energies are going to be peaking. That using the various modelling and scientific analysis of NASA instruments and European scientific instruments that is monitoring the behaviour of the Sun and the amount of cosmic energy entering into our solar system and things like the magnetosphere around the planet, that all of these things kind of like create many different variables in terms of what is happening, going to be happening with the Earth. And so he's made a really fascinating prediction that he says that in September, late September, these cosmic energies are going to peak, and that because of that, that is going to have a tremendous influence on the behavior of the Sun. It's going to have a tremendous influence on human physiology, and in particular the DNA, that the DNA is going to be affected by this because the human DNA is really information, and when you have cosmic energy coming in, that's bringing in energy, which is also another form of information that can basically alter the DNA. And so he thinks that because of this, that what's going to happen is human behavior is going to be affected tremendously by these cosmic energies. Some people are going to start spontaneously developing kind of psychic abilities or become aware of things that previously they just weren't able to be cognizant of. That other people are going to become mentally unhinged and they're going to become very unstable because it's all a matter of how well people can integrate these high frequency energies that are coming in to our solar system and that are going to be absorbed by our Sun and then absorbed by our planet and ultimately be absorbed by us as individuals. And so he, in his, I have a link to his article there, or an article describing an interview where he discussed his predictions, and it describes some of the behaviours that are going to be exhibited. As I said, people developing extraordinary psychic gifts, to people becoming kind of hallucinogenic, world leaders suddenly not being able to stay coherent and kind of running off the deep end, saying all sorts of strange things.
We have a world leader over here. His name's Andy Kenny. He's our Taoiseach, and he's definitely incoherent most of the time at the moment. So the energy must be hitting him at the moment. Sorry, Dr. Michael, I'm just having a bit of a joke.
Okay, no problem. Well, they're going to be more like that. This is the scenario that Atkins has described, and I thought it was very interesting that he made that prediction for September, and the peaking of this these cosmic waves. And I just filed it away in terms of that's very interesting information. But then Corey Good, who I know you've had on the show, yesterday, he released a statement on his website basically saying that the Sphere Alliance, the Sphere being alliance that he works with, were basically saying that their time in terms of buffering these cosmic energies that are coming into our planet or coming into our solar system, that is coming to an end, that they're going to be doing that less and less now, because we are now at a point where we can absorb all these energies. So he was saying that they are coming back now, and that we are going to be dealing with these cosmic energies as they peak, because we're handling it. So I thought that was really a very interesting thing for him to say, that these cosmic energies are now peaking and that we are able to handle it, and this is why the Sphere Being Alliance is pulling back its spheres that were previously buffering these cosmic energies coming into our solar system. So I thought that was very interesting, that aligned very well with the information Dr. Aikens was putting out, and so I thought that there was something really important here, that September may well be a date and that to keep in our calendars, and that's when I kind of realised that, well, that's actually when the Pope visits the United States. And,
Well, we have the Super Shemitah, the 7/7, the 4th of the Blood Red Moon in September as well. You know, there's a lot of things lining up to September.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, I think as far as the Pope visiting the United States is concerned, he's going to be visiting, meeting with President Obama at the White House. Then he's going to address the joint houses of Congress on September 24th. So those are two dates that are mentioned by Atkins in his paper, September 23rd, 24th. And I thought that was very interesting. And then on September 25th, the Pope's going to be addressing the United Nations, where all the world leaders are assembled for the annual gathering. And so when you kind of like put two and two together, it's very interesting that these energies, these cosmic energies, are peaking at this time, and that this is going to be leading to all sorts of behavioural changes. And both Atkins and Corey Good have actually said that part of the process of these cosmic energies influencing our planet is that they will lead to a release of documents or disclosure of a lot of hidden truths. So I think that we may well see September being a date when they may move forward with the kind of discovery announcement that we discussed earlier, that extraterrestrials have been found to exist somewhere, and then they'll probably try to spin that in a particular way that they can hopefully hold on to power a little longer.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it'd be good to get some. You know, we're not going to get caught up in dates because it's very important that we don't do that. But there seems to be an awful lot pointing to September, all right, as to something going on or something happening anyway. So, I mean, I think we'll definitely watch out for that. Now, we've talked before on the show about end times madness, and there seems to be, what I've kind of read between the lines and have read, is that the negatives will get more negative and the positives will get more positive. And this is why we see, I mean, I've said it before, if you really pull away and look at what's going on in the world, even from a local level to a global level, the world has gone completely nuts. In so many ways, it's gone completely bonkers. And I'm just wondering, is it because of these energies hitting the planet? So this is what's happening, because, you know, the people who are negative, they're not vibrating with the energy that's coming in, and it's just driving them mental in some form or some way, where the people who are vibrating with this frequency are getting kind of more service to others and are getting it.
Yes, exactly. I think we are seeing a lot of those really bizarre behaviours. And in the Middle East, we're seeing this group called ISIL, the Islamic State in the Levant, which really their behaviour is crazy. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. It's not in alignment with Islamic traditions at all. It has only a very superficial similarity to the kind of Muslim faith. It's really just a bunch of crazy people jumping off the deep end, doing a lot of murderous things, and using religion as a kind of cover for that behaviour. And it's becoming worse. And I think that's what's happening in the Middle East. I think you actually have other forms of that kind of bizarre, crazy behaviour happening in other parts of the world. But unfortunately, the Middle East seems to be where a lot of the craziness is being concentrated. And that's a very bad thing, because that doesn't because, as you were saying, as these cosmic energies hit, good behaviour or people that are kind of like, the bottom line here is that, how empathic are you to other people? I mean, do you care about what happens to other people? Do you have that kind of service to other mindset? And if you do, then you're going to become more anchored in that. That's going to be a bigger part of your reality. So that means that where you are, people are going to be also responding in the same way. So they're going to be more empathic. So you're going to care for each other. You're going to look out for each other. So you're not going to have things like homeless people, just struggling to get a meal for the day. That the communities are going to come together and look after one another. But then on the other hand, you also have the other aspect, which is those people that lack that empathy, that who kind of like just go through some kind of fanatical ideological mindset and cut off their natural empathic connections to others, they're going to do crazy things like we're seeing in the Middle East with this ISIL. By definition, these are people who lack empathy for others. They will just kind of like do extreme things to other people because they're driven by this ideological mindset, which is all about, being pure to some kind of ideal that really no one knows what it's about.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, just as you say, it's not just the what's going on in the Middle East and the wars, but we found there was on the news the other day that a man of 79, I don't know whether you've seen that, Steve, in the UK, they had a bit of a scrape in a car, so they pulled over, and this guy got out and stabbed them X amount of times.
And that happened in the UK. At the same time, in the US, a driver, I don't know if you've seen this video as well, there was a motorcyclist, you may have seen it, Dr. Michael, I'm not 100% sure, but there's a video going around of a motorcyclist in the US, and he has one of these helmets with a camera mounted on it, and he pulled up at a set of traffic lights, and a guy behind him in a car got out. Now the guy, his face looked like he wanted to rip this guy apart, and he just started punching him for no apparent reason, pushed his girlfriend away from the bike, and tried to drag the driver off the motorcycle. The motorcyclist eventually got the guy to the ground, and his eyes, there was so much rage, and like they were calling it massive, it was a bad case of road rage, but the guy's eyes were nearly bulging out of his head, and the motorcyclist holds him down. He says, hang on, I didn't cut you off, I just drove beside you, and that was all. And you think it's okay to have a go at me and punch me? And your man's there, yes. And he goes, but I didn't do anything to you. I mean, you want to calm down, man. You think that's acceptable? And your man just looks at him and he says, but seriously, do you think it's okay, for you to get out of your car? And I didn't do anything to you, but do you think it's okay? And at this stage, it was like you could see the guy's eyes going back into his head, and he just kind of, his whole face changed, like he was possessed. Yeah. His face changed, and he then calmed down, and it looked like it was tears in his eyes. I don't know, but there's a lot of that road rage as well.
Yeah, the red mist, and of course the cops over in the States are going mad and shooting people that are doing nothing. So there is definitely something going on a planetary level regarding energy and people's minds being affected in some way, because it's like a nut house. It really is. There's so much going on. But Steve, just watching the time there, you've got a few questions there. Do you want to throw them over to Dr. Michael?
Yeah, we do. Joan has a couple of questions. I want to get these in because it's an interesting topic that we were discussing. But Joan is wondering, why in the world would any of these people release information that would be a benefit to the rest of us? That goes back to when we were talking about disclosure. It makes perfect sense. If there is going to be some information that would benefit humankind, why would they actually release it? Why wouldn't they just keep it to themselves?
That's a good question, John. And the answer really is that the people who are going to be releasing this information, they are aligned with the kind of more constitutionalist faction in the secret space programs. In the United States, the people who join the military have to swear an oath of allegiance to protect the Constitution at all times from all enemies, internal and external. And I think that these people, the kind of so-called white hats, what they see is that if they don't do anything now, eventually what's going to happen is that these secret space programs are going to be basically taken over by an artificial intelligence. That artificial intelligence is a really big menace to humanity, and that they see that artificial intelligence is being introduced slowly into human society. And if these disclosures don't happen soon, then artificial intelligence will eventually be so established in human society that it will take over. And once that happens, the information that they have received from other worlds that have seen the results of this artificial intelligence is that there is planetary catastrophe. So I think that the real reason why these people are releasing this information, Joan, is that it's to basically self-preservation. They want to make sure that there's a planet still here for their children and their grandchildren, one that is not something that has been devastated because bad decisions were made today, which lead in the future to an artificial intelligence basically taking over all of the secret space programs and taking over the planet.
I think Joan actually goes on to say that I think she believes that control of people by this new technology. She said control of people by technology, in her opinion, is to delete, destroy, and make the rest of us slaves. And she reckons that that's the bottom line.
Well, we have been made slaves. That is, the mass population have been made kind of economic slaves, but there still is a degree of freedom there that we have. I think what has been attempted now is to basically set up a mass surveillance state that would limit the freedoms that we've had up until the moment, and basically make us, enslave us to a greater degree. It's all a question of, to what degree can you enslave a population? Well, in a kind of low-tech society, you can have a police force and so forth that can kind of maintain the secrecy system. But as you go more high-tech, you have to come up with more sophisticated systems of enslaving people, and ultimately it's basically making sure that people don't have dissident thoughts. And so that's when you actually have a system set up in place that can actually monitor human thought. And there actually is technology in place. There are patents in place, and that's something that is part of this Jade Helm exercise here in the United States at the moment. There is technology in place that can actually monitor human thought, human feelings from space. And using the space satellites that they have up there, they can monitor people's thoughts and behaviours, and that is all fed into an artificial intelligent quantum computer, and then works out how to respond to people's thoughts and feelings. So this is all part of the process of setting up what eventually will be kind of an artificial intelligent system that will control the human population and our thoughts and our feelings.
Well, you're talking about Skynet, aren't you? It's really Terminator, Skynet, the AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're talking about the role of movies in acclimating people or desensitizing them to some things. But yes, Skynet, exactly it. This is Jade Helm is rolling out the first version of Skynet. One of the organisations behind Jade Helm is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and it not only collects all of the data from all of the other agencies like the national, like the NSA and the CIA and all of those other organisations. It also collects information that is generated by human thoughts and feelings through these satellites that are linked up with these implants in people's brains. They implant people, subjects, with these technologies so that they can be monitored by satellites that are then fed into this quantum computer.
Yeah, that's the way you get your TIs. But what you're saying is that this wave that's coming in is going to be the game changer, or inverted commas, the event that's going to happen will possibly be the game changer, because that could make their technology null and void and dormant because of the changes that are going to affect their DNA. Is that a possibility?
Exactly, yes. These technologies, the rolling out of kind of like the Skynet or Jade Helm, this artificial intelligence, quantum computing system that monitors human thoughts and feelings, that is something that they've been preparing for some time, and they needed a few more years to complete that. But if they had their way, by around 2018, 2020, somewhere in that time frame, they would have had enough people implanted with these chips in their skulls to basically monitor the human population sufficiently so that they could prevent any kind of human social movement success or transformation. But I think with these cosmic energies, what's happening is that that's going to short circuit all of that. These cosmic energies are peaking now, and that's going to short circuit the plans to basically roll out this kind of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, space-based surveillance system that would basically enslave humanity and monitor our thoughts and feelings and actually influence them. That they can actually influence our thoughts and feelings from space.
Yeah, well, that's...
So this is something...
I was just going to say, it sounds to me like, people who are TIs, targeted individuals. And when I heard about this wave coming in, the movie that came to mind was the first movie of the Fantastic Four. And in Hollywood, again, using Hollywood, where the four of them, or five of them, go up to the space capsule, and they get hit by this energy. And they fundamentally, it changes their DNA, and then they get superhuman powers. But the whole thing behind it is that they get hit by this energy wave that they weren't expecting.
Exactly. Yes. This energy wave. It's the big wild card. In a way, it's the kind of what we've been waiting for. Maybe something that at an unconscious level we've been kind of like wanting to happen for a long time, but it is coming, and apparently it is something that is going to be the game changer. It is going to be something that triggers this awakening in people, and as we were discussing earlier, you're either going to become more empathic, with more psychic abilities and enhanced powers, or you're basically going to go off the deep end and start hallucinating and become crazy.
Yeah, because, a number of people have said about the divide that will take place, or there'll be two kind of Earths that's going to happen. And maybe, I don't know whether they mean it on a physical level or they mean it on a spiritual, energetic level. But this divide could be the difference between the vibrations of the people who are service to others and the people who are service to self. And this could be the energy change that's coming in to make that difference. But I don't know whether that's going to be a physical or just a spiritual, energetic world. I suppose we're going to have to see. We have a few minutes left. We have about 3 minutes left before we start winding things up. So, do you want to get a couple of questions in?
Yeah, sure, mate. We'll throw a few questions in. Just in relation to when you were talking about the being able to read people's thoughts, we've known that for a long time. Just in case anyone wants to check it out, that a thought does have a frequency and can be tracked from a great distance, and that's obviously where we're going to see the introduction of thought crimes, where before you won't even have to commit a crime, you'll be arrested because you even thought about it, and obviously that will be admissible in court. But we do have a question in relation to earthquakes and sinkholes, Michael. It's just about the earthquakes and sinkholes that have kind of been popping up around the planet, volcanoes going off and fish dying in their thousands. What do you think, or who do you think is behind this, and why?
Well, this is part of the process by which the Earth herself, as a planetary body, is responding to these heightened cosmic energies that are coming into our solar system. That the Earth also has an evolutionary process that it is going through, and just as we individuals have been kind of limited from achieving our fullest potential because of the cabal, similarly the Earth itself has been kind of like held back energetically from evolving into what it can be capable of sustaining. And I think that what we're seeing now with the earthquakes, the sinkholes, the kind of bizarre weather patterns, these are a combination of the Earth responding to cosmic waves and kind of releasing negative energies that have been kind of like accumulated within the planet at some level, and of course you also have some high-tech technologies being used by the cabal in terms of false flag events such as we mentioned Fukushima, using weather wars against different countries. There may be one of the things Simon Atkins predicts for September is that there's going to be a 9.0 earthquake somewhere around Iran. So that would be probably a result of this kind of kind of false flag effort by some organisation to kind of like take advantage of the infusion of these cosmic energies.
So you don't reckon that, well, as some people say, you don't reckon that with all the sinkholes and volcanoes going off, that it's kind of a prelude to the Earth actually just exploding?
Oh, no, not at all. I think this is just these are symptoms of a lot of energy being absorbed into the Earth, being released by the Earth, and we're kind of seeing it in terms of the behaviour of people, populations. In some areas, people are literally going crazy. We mentioned the Middle East. I mean, what they're doing there just kind of doesn't make sense. The different Muslim communities are at each other's throats. Muslim Sunnis and Muslim Shias have been living side by side for over 1,000 years. Now they're at each other's throats. Why is that? Well, I think it's a reaction for these to these heightened energies that are being absorbed by the planet, and people are kind of like releasing these energies in their own way.
Yeah, I think people have to be aware of it. We'll have to finish up on that, but it's been a fantastic interview there, Dr. Michael, with the information that you have. And if it is the case in September that good energies are coming in and making changes, well then all the better. Now, as I say, we have been kind of desensitized with dates. They've come and gone. September might just come and go. Maybe October might just come and go. We don't know. We just have to see, play it by ear, and see what happens. But it's been great information, and we thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to get all your details so people know where to get you.
Yeah, I want to just.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, Michael, it has been a pleasure, good information, and especially the positive stuff, because as we said, we like to end on a positive note. We don't like to end on doom and gloom. Anybody can come on and point out the doom and gloom. It's nice to have solutions as well, and a positive note to end the show on. I'm guessing we're probably going to have you on again at a later date if you're up for that, because I reckon there's so many avenues we haven't actually gone down, and I'm sure that a lot of people, like, judging by the questions coming in and the comments, I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there, they'd like to pick your brain some more. But just in the meantime, can you just give us I think I have your website here, you can just correct me, exopolitics.org is what I believe is your website. And do you have a YouTube channel or any other means where people can just check out what you're doing, what you're up to and stuff like that?
Sure, they can just go to Exopolitics.org. That's my main website. All the links, all the articles and YouTube videos that I've put up, they're all there. And so I want to thank you, Alan and Steve, for having me on the show. It was great.
Brilliant, no problem. Thanks for coming on the show. Just stay with us there for a few minutes, Dr. Michael. We'll just go to a musical break and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
And we're back. I actually had one song lined up, and then I just decided to change it to that little bit of Sade, Smooth Operator. We just play that especially for Agent in the OYM chat room, because he's a bit of a ladies' man, and I just thought it was a fitting song. But there you go. Yeah, good information with Michael Salla. I know it doesn't resonate with everybody, but at the end of the day, it's just information. We just lay it out there for y'all to play it out, or something like that.
Exactly.
Anyway.
We're just going to have to see what happens. Again, over the years, we've had loads of dates come and go all the time, and we've just kind of got to the stage now, like as we said to Max Egan last week about the desensitizing of dates, because if a date does happen and we are not ready for it, well then we're in trouble, I suppose, depending on what's going to happen. So just to say, just see it as information. That's all it is. Now, next week, would you believe it's our 5th year anniversary? Would you believe that? It's been 5 years, Steve.
Yeah. Do you know what? There are some marriages haven't lasted this long.
Michael Jackson, for one. That's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few of them anyway. Yeah, you're right. So some marriages haven't lasted this long. 5 years. Mind you, we're not married. But we have been... No. Yeah.
We're living in sin.
We're living in sin. But 5 years, it was the 26th of July, 5 years ago, but it was on a Saturday, not a Sunday, that we did our first 2 shows. and then we moved it to Sunday, and then it went from then on. So
That's right.
You know,
I remember it like it was 5 years ago.
I'll tell you, and we were actually talking to somebody the other day about this, about when we started off. They want to know how we started off the show, OYM. And we were talking to this lady, Amanda, who's one of the listeners. Good evening, Amanda. I hope you're tuning in. And we were talking to her about it. And we were so excited when we started doing the radio show after a couple of weeks. And we had 5 listeners. And we were quite chuffed. We thought, oh, there's 5 people listening to the show. That's very interesting. So after 5 years, we're probably up to about, I don't know, 10 now. Is it about 10 listeners now?
At least, well, yeah. We've extended the amount of family members who listen in. I'm not sure if there's anyone else outside the families actually tuning into us.
No. But so at least, I'd say there's about at least 10, maybe 11 people that tune in now, which is brilliant after 5 years. So we have our anniversary. Are we going to do anything? Are we going to have a cake? Probably not. Are we going to eat it?
We'd probably just turn up here next Sunday and just do the show as per usual. And you'd probably just give it a mention in passing. Yeah,
well, we have to make sure that we have Leo Zagami on next week, and we have to make sure that Leo's all nice and positive, because we did kind of say to Leo that, you know, we did a great show last time and great information, but it was a little bit dark. So we kind of said, do you have anything that you can kind of tell us that's kind of good as well as bad? Because, you know, we do like to have solutions, or we do like to have the positive as well as the negative as well. You know, here's the problem, but here's the solution. So, and Leo is being briefed on that. So fingers crossed, Leo will be celebrating our 5th year next Sunday, and we'll try and make it positive if we can. So that's good information. Now, as I say, as I mentioned, the Pain Genie, we're having great results with the Pain Genie. 7 people this week, 1 today. It's 8 in total, and 2 of them, there's 4 of them people. There's 2 couples there as well, and they were very surprised with the results of the Pain Genie. And as I say, we don't sell it, we don't get commission for it, we're not even advertising it on OYM on the website. We are just amazed at how it works and how successful it's been. And a couple of people who I spoke to at the National Land League AGM today said to me, oh, I have a pain, I must get you to do mine, So, you know, we're having good results with it. And just remember that it's not a miracle cure. There is a difference between chronic pain and acute pain. And chronic pain is going to take a lot longer to treat because you heal back in time based on Herring's Law. But it's good stuff. We do carry it around, and we did a demo as well to one of the ladies who's saying. And thanks to Catherine and Danny. They know who they are. I did a treatment with Danny as well. And that went very well. And they were very hospitable to me, turning up when I did the treatment. So, but it's all kind of good stuff. Very positive. It's just, you know, we know there's an awful lot going on in Ireland, and there's a lot of repossessions, and we talked about it today, the National Land League meeting, and it's just horrendous what's going on. But you know what? There's a lot of great people out there as well, putting their energy in and helping everybody out, and getting that empathy and understanding what's going on and putting their energy into it. And that's what we do. We all have to chip away at the block. That's really what it is. If we all can do a little bit, it's all going to help make a change. It doesn't matter how small it is, but if we can all chip at the block and do something to help each other out, then there's going to be a change. A change will take place. The revolution is not going to be broadcast, and the government are not going to help us because they're happy the way they are. They like it quid pro quo with them. So the only people that's going to make a change is you and me, the people listening to this show, and the people who are out there listening to all the other radio shows. So it's up to you. The person who's listening to this show now, it's up to you to make a change. So tomorrow, as of from tomorrow, then start making a change. Service to others, not service to self. Every little bit helps. The energy changes. So that's what it's all about. So that's my, not preaching, but that's the way I practice what I preach, and I try and do that, and I try and apply that as much as I can. And you know what? It's a great feeling helping people out. It really is. Not in an egotistical way at all. It's just a nice energy when you help people out and you get a little thank you at the end of it. Brilliant. I just think it is. So
no, I totally agree. It's even better when you can help someone who's in need of it, and there's absolutely nothing they can do in return. You know, you help because you can, because you want to, and that's it. And that's what we're all about here. We're just about helping people.
You're sorry.
I was going to say, and especially like with the pain genie as well. Okay, people know, long-time listeners know exactly how we feel about it. They know how we came about having one here, and they know that so far Alan has, in his own time, for free of charge, gone out and hooked up with people and helped people, gave them demonstrations, just because he knew that they were in pain, and based on what we've seen at the training course and from personal experience, that it does work. So therefore he's actually gone out to help people, and there's nothing they can do. Well, I suppose they could, they'd bake you a cake or something if they wanted it, but he went out, he was just kind of selfless, and he went down and visited these people and just helped them, and that was it.
And that's basically it. Just, we all do a little bit. We all chip away. Look, you're going to get your naysayers. You're going to get your negative people. You're going to get your energy vampires. Just stay away from them. They're going to pull your energy down. Just stay away from them. Just, get them out of your circle. And it's the same with family, unfortunately. I mean, that's why God gave us friends, because, family can't be all the best at times. So, look at the 6 closest people around you, and if they add to your energy, great. If there's people in your circle that don't add to your energy,
shoot them.
Then shoot them. Then take them out of your circle. Look at the 6 closest people. So that's your exercise for the week, and we'll chat next week. Right.
We're giving out homework now?
Yeah, homework. Look at the 6 closest people in your circle and ask yourself, do they enhance my life, or do they affect my life in a negative way? So they're the people you have to take out of your circle, okay? Because positivity feeds positivity. That's a fact.
Take them out. Take them out of your circle.
Take them out of your circle. All right. So next week with Leo Sagarmi. So listen, take it easy. We have our anniversary next week, 5 years. And it'll be, I don't know whether we might go down memory lane. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you never know. We might even play a snippet of a podcast.
The start of show 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so embarrassing.
Yeah, we might do that. We might get the very start, 5 minutes at the start of the show 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right.
I won't be here. Good luck.
Okay, right. Good luck. For myself, Alan James, take it easy. Stay safe. Be positive, and service to others. That's where we're going. Take care.
Okay.
Catch you next week. Bye bye.
And for myself, Stephen George, it's been a blast. We'll do it all again in 7 days. Check out the links there for Dr. Michael Salla's website. It posted up there earlier if you're interested in finding out some more information on him. And we do it again in 7 days. So until then, sayonara, arrivederci, and slán